Yeah,
Okay.
it's being recorded. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next session. I'm sorry, my throat's getting a little bit raspy, but we'll get through this. This is the session I've been looking forward to, and I think we'll have some good interaction as we go along. Sacred lands, sacred sites, are they sacred to everyone? And this session actually came out of the brain of my chief and my brother, um, Chief Charles Twodog, who will be doing the program with me. Yeah, it's an interesting question, and actually, I've gotten a lot of response on Facebook just waiting for this program about people who think yes, they're sacred to everyone. No, some are not. Um, what is a sacred space? So let's have some good talk, but maybe let's have a little bit of fun with this too. I mean, I think it's really important as we go through all this work that we retain that sense of fun also. So here we go. Chief Charles Twodog, United Western Lenape Tribe. Our tribe is located in Kentucky. We're a small band and we are spread out in many places. I'm currently in Pennsylvania. Charles, you want to introduce yourself better?
Ah, hello, my relatives. I am Chief Charles Twodog, United Western Lenape Nation, and we're here to speak of unity around the world and what is sacred. And since I believe all of you are my relatives, is that we are all related, of course, and to be able to speak with you one on one. And to all the women that are in this sacred circle and that are hearing my voice right now, since you are a life giver of your people and life givers and sisters to the earth, I bow to you. Thank you because I come from woman myself. And to all the women that are sacred life givers in the four directions black, white, yellow, red, I bow to you as a man and as a warrior. And I thank you for all you do. So yeah, Jim, I'm here to do what I am to do and do it with you, brother. So I get it back to you for right.
Okay, great. So, um, one of the things that Charles and I were kicking around were some of the sites. And a couple of them, again, have already had comments. So I'm curious what Charles thinks, because he hasn't heard this yet. Too many things are flying at all of us at the moment, which is good. Um, one of them, Charles.
We are now streaming live on Facebook.
Okay, good. So, welcome to anyone who is listening to us now via stream. Also, those who will listen later, because we know that's always the biggest audience. Today has really been growing. Each program has been amazing, not just here, but in all the rooms. And that's a great thing to see. Um, so, Charles, some of the places we talked about as being sacred and in which ways. One of them we mentioned, actually, you mentioned right off the top, was the Trail of Tears. And I've gotten some debate on that. I've gotten some who say, absolutely, that whole trail is sacred. Others who are saying, that's something we had to suffer through. What makes it sacred? So, Charles, I put it to you.
Well, one thing I can say, brother, is that in my heart, and I can only say this in my heart, okay, is okay, what makes that sacred? What is to me in my heart is to remember what my ancestors went through as they walked this, okay? And what we do a lot of times, especially in October now, we go to part of where the trail went through, and then we walk it back. We walk it back into honor those who walked this trail. Our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our great great grandmothers and grandfathers walked this trail. All right. In many ways, We have the tears that I cry today just remembering what they did or what they had to do. So this whole time is sacred within heart, okay, into remembering what they went through and to let everyone know we're still here as far as the people, and we are still here. So in a lot of ways, that whole route is a sacred thing. In Hopkinsville, there's two graves of two chiefs, one by the name of White Path. He is there. I go and I give my thanks and I give my prayers up and to honor these chiefs that have been buried there. Okay. So it is a sacred thing in many ways. It's sacred in certain ways, and maybe it's bad in others, of course. But it also goes within heart. That's that's a sacred thing. It what it was is it makes me remember who who we are as a people. It reminds me of what they had to go through, and that what I go through every day is nothing compared to what they did. So that's also sacred to me. You see what I'm saying, Jim, right?
I do, and I think that's a great answer. Not every sacred site is beautiful, shining energy. Some sacred sites have had a hard history like that. And so that is part of what we honor and respect and work to heal. And I think these sacred sites are so under assault right now. We've been hearing about some of them already today. Our sisters from the Stone Edge Project are here trying to preserve that site as well. And so these things don't have to be, in my mind, sacred to everyone. Not every um, site is necessarily sacred to everyone. And I've been places and I've been invited to sacred sites with different people that the outside world knows nothing about. That doesn't make it any less sacred to me. In some ways, it may make it more sacred because we have this huge web of sacred places around the globe. This huge web that's starting to come together because it is critical, I think, that we keep those. I know my elders always taught me, of course, they're all gone now, um, that if we lose our sacred places, if we lose our sacred lands and sites, we lose our spirit. It makes it so much more difficult to do anything. And so it's really important, I think. The last couple of programs talked about this as well, and they're right. We have to come together. We have to preserve these places, and it's up to us to do it. So, Trail of Tears, yes. A dark part of history, of course. We have many of them. We're humans. Hopefully, we're going to start eliminating those. But a very sacred place that reminds many of us, what happened, where we came from. Another one we mentioned with maybe a little different energy, but also was taken out of indigenous hands is Pia Sapa, the Black Hills.
Uh, if you would allow me, Jim, real quick, as far as uh, Payasapa, the Black Hills, is where the Lakota and I believe their allies, the Cheyenne, also that would go and pray. They go pray. They do vision quests. They do prayer ceremonies. They have ceremonies and things there. That is a sacred place where they would go and pray to Wakantanka Tankashila, grandfather or the great mystery. And this is where we kept, in that aspect. Okay, that is that is the same as saying, okay, that's where our church is. This is, our church is out here. Okay, this is an arch. Where they went and praised was the Black Hills, the great You know, that is their sacred site. That is their great mountain. That is what I'm saying. Okay. That is their sacred site. It should be preserved. Everything like that. You look at Stonehenge in itself, although it's not from the culture I'm from, but it's from my relatives' culture that is sacred to them. So what is sacred to them should be preserved as well. So as a, I'm looking at it as a human being. Okay, I'm looking at it. It doesn't matter about what race, creed, or color you are. We're all the human being here, so we are relatives. And if that's happening, like from Paya Sapa to there, it all should to Stonehenge. It should all be uh, preserved. If it's sacred to them, it is sacred. It should be. But you know, a lot of times in times, what is sacred to one may not be to another. But if you lose these sacred sites, you lose part of who you are, and you lose a whole lot of history within of who you are. So I do believe it should be everything should be preserved. It's not about money; it's about the spirituality of it. These are what our ancestors left us worldwide. So that's what I think, brother. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, no, no. That's perfect. That's exactly. And we will open this up for questions and comments in a while. Um, yeah, there's many different types of sacred sites. I'm thinking as you're speaking, and so another type that's coming into mind are the natural ones. Now, the Black Hills are a natural one, but they're also used heavily for spiritual practices. I'm thinking of maybe the giant redwoods in California. Anyone who's ever been amongst the redwoods, I'm sure, has felt that energy there, has understood what a sacred place that is to be in, to walk in. I ask permission every time before I take my first step into those standing trees because it's so incredibly powerful. Now, those may be known to more people than some of the individual sacred sites. Does that make it stronger, weaker? I don't think that's the case. I think it's part of that mosaic. What do you think about the natural wonders that are sacred sites, brother?
Well, if you look at the natural wonders of these sacred sites, okay, if you look at all of this natural thing as far as the trees that you're talking about and everything else of this manner, uh, it's power. That's power. That's nature's sacred power. Okay. That's what we got to remember, you know, as the two legged, we got to remember that we're part of this whole sacred thing. The Mother Earth, the four leggeds, the wingeds, the standing ones, the plant peoples, everything. We're also part of that power. All right. I mean, you have something like the giant redwoods like that. I would probably spiritually lose my mind to see it get cut down. You know what I'm saying? Because it's that is that's nature. That is also who we are as the two-legged. All right. It's nature's power within itself. All these things. It's in that great circle. And if that is gone, it's just like the great circle that we have here. All right. And I'm talking, you know, within all that, if the water is gone or it goes bad or you can't, or all the trees are cut, you can't breathe. So I say it like this: put your hands apart, because when that happens, part of the great circle of life is gone. We can die from that. You know, if say the trees are gone, you can't breathe, the water goes bad, you can't drink it, or the wolf goes, you know, the wolf is gone, the deer overpopulate, disease happens, circle of life is broken. You know, you can also die from these. We got to remember that the Earth Mother, she is here. And we are also part of that. That is what we are. We're part of the Earth Mother. We're part of all nature. And if that goes, then we lose ourselves, maybe.
Yeah, and of course, many of our sacred sites are under attack. I think we all know that. We're all familiar with some of them. The reality is, around the world, they're really being attacked, and the list gets longer and longer as I hear from more people. But that's not the only threat. Climate change is a threat as the waters rise, and I'm thinking of the Redwoods. They're in great peril right now because if things change too much there, they're gone. They have a very narrow band that they can live within of an ecosystem. So all these things, and we talked about this in the opening program today, are interconnected. Sacred sites, water, climate change, social justice. These are the things I think we have to stand up together on. And so if your heart is in protecting sacred sites, stand up and protect them, but also reach out to our brothers and sisters in working in preserving water and cleaning water. Also reach out to those who are standing up for social justice, because none of them will be truly effective without the others. And that's the circle I think that you're talking about, Chief. If they're not all being addressed, then the circle's broken. The sacred hoop is not holding true. And I'm glad to see so many of us doing it now, so many different groups. And weeks like this, where we can come together and share ideas, I think are incredible. We have in our room some amazing things coming up. I have, after a lot of phone calls and a lot of work by other people, we've got the Kogi coming on Thursday. And I'm sure they'll be talking their ideas on sacred lands as well. We've got some Australian Aborigine groups coming in. And so people are coming from all over, far flung, to add their energy and to feel part of the circle. And to me, that's the way it needs to be right now. We do have any other ones we want to bring up before we open this up a little bit, Charles?
Well, if you allow me a little bit about the water,
Yeah.
okay. Many Wakani, number one. But if you look at the water, we're part of water ourselves, okay? That's one. Number two is if we camped anywhere, we always camped around water. All right. We cooked with water. We all did this. All right. Now, if you look in modern society, and I'm just going modern society for a second, and you look at all these freeways we got now, where one place takes us to another. All right. If you look back within history, what was the first freeway, the first highways, things like that? We used the canoes and used the rivers. We went from place to place between that. So that was actually like the first highway as well. All right. So you see where I'm going. Water is life within generation, no matter what. For the wingeds, the four-leggeds, the two-leggeds, the plant peoples, everything. Water is life. But, it's like I'm saying, we used to water the rivers and stuff, kind of like the first freeways, because you can go from one place to another just through the river. So it's all sacred. Everything is sacred. Everything. All right, Jim.
Yeah. So that's a good place to segue over. We have some of our relatives up on Pine Ridge again, listening in via my phone because they don't have any real connection. And they've often listened, Charles, when we do our radio shows. So they're bringing up another aspect, and that is recent sacred places. And how does that add into this? And they're talking about Standing Rock, and they're talking about Not Afraid to Look, the statue looking down over the river and Standing Rock. Is that sacred land?
Uh, I would say, yeah, as far as say, uh, what was yesterday is today in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. What is sacred to, say, our generation or our time of living to what is sacred with the old ones, okay? What is sacred to the old ones is still sacred to us, but there's new things coming as well. So what is, what was is, what is what may be later, okay? To all these things. It's in that great circle. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that same outlook. What was sacred to to the people. You take me for instance, okay? And I'm just gonna say it like real quick. I've been a buzzard man all my life, most of my life, okay? And what a buzzard man did was take care of burial ground, sacred site, burial ground, where we put our peoples where they shall remain, if you know what I'm saying. And to some of us, we take a journey, and that journey is not done until the bones of our ancestors go back to the earth from which they come. Okay, so where we put them is sacred to us. So when I stayed a year in court over the burial ground that we were allowed to rebury the ancestors in the cave where we're at, okay, then that burial ground is sacred. That is a sacred place. So there again, burial ground, other things like that is still sacred from yesterday, and it is today, and it will be tomorrow. So I give it back to you,
Good.
brother.
Yeah. No. Again, I agree with you on that. Even in Pine Ridge, in the little cemetery there. I mean, the first time I went there, I literally dropped to my knees. I couldn't control myself. It took me an hour just to compose myself. That was very sacred land, and I had no idea before I got there that I would have that reaction. I expected it in the Black Hills when I went and spent time there. Um, yeah. So, what is sacred? Sacred is what we determine is sacred, and different communities, different peoples hold different things sacred. I think that's where we're going. Some of them we hold collectively, but collectively, all these things are sacred. I think water, as I said, and we talked about in the first program today. Water in toto, water collectively, all the waters on the earth are a sacred place, probably the grandmother of all sacred places because they run through everything. And I don't think Louisa is on here now, um, but there was a song they were singing at Stonehenge as they lit the fire the other night, and it talked about the water below the ground lapping the stones. And I'd forgotten that water was an element of that. So yeah, that's really good. So I see we've had some hands up here. Can we call some people in now?
Yeah,
Carol,
sure.
let's call in Carol. She's had her hand up for a while. She must be getting tired.
Um, well, my hands are pretty strong. They're used to carrying that water all the time. So, um, but I wanted to touch base on a couple of things that you mentioned. Um, Number one was the Trail of Tears and the the acknowledging it as both a place of pain, but also a place of healing. Because
Well,
as we parents, we also heal their pain, and then we don't pass that generational trauma down to the next generation. And so, on that point, I want to talk about walking the Hudson River and being challenged a couple of times about that. Um, Number one, I was scheduled to have, I had paid for a campground in a place called Croton Point. And I arrived quite late in the evening, but my spot was all paid for. So they just gave me the code to get into the campground. And as I stood there, I got out of the car and I'm standing on the land and I'm typing in the code to get the gate to open. Ancestral pain. And I went down into the campground and got my site, and I was going to set my tent up, and then I thought, no, I can't set my tent up. And I was just so overcome. I went back to the office and told them I need to cancel this reservation, and I was told it's too late. And I said, fine, but I can't sleep here, and I can't sleep here because of this. So I'll come back and talk to the manager in the morning. So I went back to the person who had housed me the night before. I'd called her and asked if she would house me one more night. And we went online, and right where the gate was a memorial, cut down a great oak that had been there. And under that great oak, the treaty was signed between the Mohawk and the white people, the newcomers. And after they signed the treaty, the village was slaughtered. And so the oak was memorialized, and the native people had put up a sign acknowledging that oak as being a sacred place of treaty signing. And so I went back the next day, first thing in the morning, and I did ceremony there. And I did a crossing over ceremony and thanked the ancestors for all that they gave.
Carol, your
In order to
signal
try to.
your signal's dropping out some. So see if you wrap around to the question or the comment.
Okay,
I don't know
so
what's something's glitching.
all right. Further down, further down the river in Palisades Park, I ran into the same thing with fort after fort after fort that was on the river to prevent the ships from going up further up the river during the French and Canadian, French and English wars. And so my question is, you know, people look at these places as
Good.
sacred sites, but for me, they're sacred sites because look what our ancestors did, and what they gave to preserve that land for us, and so to me, that makes them sacred sites. And the hardest part for me, or well, no, maybe not the hardest part at Standing Rock, but when they bulldozed the burial grounds, that was extremely difficult for me, extremely difficult. And so I want to thank you for bringing that up. That
Thanks,
you know
Carol.
these places are sacred to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. That's excellent. Absolutely agree. I'm sorry you're cutting out, but it's your signal, I guess. Teresa, you made a nice comment in there. Do you want to bring it up to the group?
I live right by Coquitlam River, Coquitlam, and so I go there every morning. And that song that they were sharing this morning, the Algonquin water song, was passed to me with the message that all women should be singing the song. So I go down every morning and I sing most every morning to the river, and listen, and practice listening deeply. And so to me, now it's summer and there's lots of people going down to the river, and it kind of hurts my heart because, you know, they leave garbage behind, and this is just a spot by my place that I go to. It's not a sacred site, but to me, it's become a sacred site. And I think you said that, Charles, all of nature is sacred. And yeah, lots have history, but all the, you know, it is all sacred. And yeah, so I just wanted to add that in, because when I would listen to your subject matter this morning, I was thinking, oh, but it feels sacred to me, but it's not, it's not known by other people. It's not celebrated by other people. So I don't think that matters. Thank you. I hope.
That's excellent. Charles, let me just add one quick piece and then turn it over to you. That first program we did this morning, we had a group of us, and boy, that was powerful. After Chief Phil opened some things up for us, my wife came on and sang this song, Algonquin Water Song, which she had been taught and told to share and given permission to share. When Laura Syke came on later, Laura was coming on to do the ceremony part of that. She had the same song set up and ready to go. So no coincidence, those, of course, of all the songs and all the nations, they both picked that one song. Charles, this is all yours.
Okay, that's awesome, Grey Wolf. Actually, that is absolutely awesome. But let me go with Miss Teresa here for just a second. In a lot of time throughout history, it's been shown that one nation that may come into another nation may not respect or honor the sacred sites of the nation that they're in. Okay, that has been happening in history. But let me go with you, Teresa, because I think I just like spiritually want to take your hand and take a walk for a second with you. And what I'm wished to say is, as you see all these people at this water that you're talking about, and they're throwing the garbage, and it may not be sacred to them, sometimes it's individual sacredness. Okay, it's like that place is sacred to you in your heart. That's you. So that's your power. That's your sacredness to that spot. That's your part of that nature in itself. That is your heart. That is your power. Don't let go of that. That is you. That's yours. That's your spiritual power right there, is that sacred spot. Don't let that go. That's yours. So I wanted to just pass that back.
If I might just quickly add, I just go down to the river and pick up the garbage and sing my song. So thank you.
I agree with you, Teresa. There's a huge reservoir here, and I do the same thing. And then there's the Conowingo Dam, where the eagles all come. I do the same thing there. It used to really make me angry. It doesn't anymore. It makes me sad. But more and more people are learning, because I see other people now out there with trash bags. I used to be the only one, right? That's a change. I see a lot of young people out there with trash bags. So yeah, I think that's part of the change we're going through. So thank you for bringing that up. The other, later this evening, Tanya is hosting a friend of ours. Whoops, I pulled up the wrong thing, of course. Because it relates to this, I just want to, I think at 8 o'clock Eastern this evening, Tanya is hosting James, I do this wrong all the time, Kauaiwa Nuni, okay, sorry, from Hawaii, obviously. He's an amazing person as well. He's going to talk about the sacred spaces within us. So if sacred spaces are something you want to talk more about, that'd be a good one to connect in also. So, Charles, do I see if anyone else wants to?
Yeah, I mean, we're here to answer any questions
anyone
you got
else
or whatever.
Come on,
So,
I was just gonna. I'm sorry, Charles. I thought you were done. I was just gonna make a joke and say I see that Michael Coles is here. I know he'll have a question. Go ahead, Michael. Michael's a friend of mine, Charles. Charles is my chief.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Jim. Nice to meet you, Charles, Twodogs. Lynn, nice to see you again. Thanks for taking care of that side of the inlet over there. I'm over here on the Musqueam to Fraser River side here. So we got this landmass between us covered on that, blessing up. I just wanted to go back to that aspect about walking into sacred places and the reference to the aspect of our own perspective of what's sacred to us personally, which is the blending of those two things here. And it goes back to what we were discussing in the previous one session with our Norwegian brethren, right? And the culture of Northern Europe. And so the disconnect with the land is where we have lost that understanding of respect of moving into a different space. And this is why we get a lot of confrontational of like, oh, what are you doing here? Are you supposed to be here? These kind of lower mentality responses in these ways when people come upon your house. And so this connectedness about this whole aspect, in that vibration, what has been lost from long. So it takes the aspect of how do you think that we can, other than just awareness, because awareness is nice, but we need action. And so changing people's perspective about how to move in a good vibration in a respectful way into the places that you're going, and to cultivate that into our daily lives. Now we do that when respect, like Lynn goes to the water and she does that. But we need to take that energy of the heart that we all have in those spaces and extend it out as well. And that's what's nice about the whole unity movement and the Mother Earth sitting us down here for this last year, 2 years, and getting us to, to chill out and take reflections. So it's about reconnecting the people back to the land without the land suffering more from our human existence, because there's 8 billion people now. We don't want them all going out into the land now. I support my land back brothers and sisters. Right where in the territory I was born in East York along the Don River. My ancestors who came here from England and went to that territory. And so this is the disconnect we need to bring people back to the rivers, a couple times a year, just to honor, pay respect, because the land is lonely. It's lonely for the humans, not so much, but it's lonely for our winged ones, our four-legged ones, and our swimming ones. Because we have on the West Coast, we have our salmon running up the rivers who are being assaulted, can't make it back to that gracious space. So in that space of what I was just speaking about, that connected, how can we get people to move as, in Caribbean tradition and Jamaican, Bob Marley, life is about movements.
Yep.
Moving in a good way and being respectful of that into someone else's space, right? And so that's how are we going to do that, Charles, to bring that in, and or anybody else who is on this panel, like to chirp in on that one.
Well, I can start, Jim, and I'll
Please,
give it
thank
to
you
you
very
in a
much.
minute.
Thank you.
Well, I can try like this, Michael.
Mhm.
First thing off, is to start being, you have a community. Just say your community, all right? If you think about the word community, it means common unity, all right? First off, in your community, you should get to know your neighbor, all right?
Right.
Have a communication, all right? That is the main thing, is communication, all right? Second of all, is that if you come in my territory, all right, you come in a peaceful way, you will be met in a peaceful way. Every action has that equal reaction, of course, okay? Now, it is time to start, because we're all, as you can tell, starting to speak the same language nowadays, all right? So the communication is getting better and better, but communication, start to know your neighbor, because what it is in your community is a tribal community. But see, the problem is that in modern society, we have forgotten, and most people have forgotten, that we were all tribal at one time. Black, white, yellow, red, we were all tribal at one time, brother. And we have forgotten how to be tribal. Okay. So communication first. You take me, if I go in, say me from one nation walks into another nation, and you see me put a blanket down and sitting down, you know I'm a traitor, and I'm not there for anything but being able to trade with you. And I don't have to know your own language, or we don't have to know each other's language, because you know what I just came in there to do. In other words, I sat with my blanket, I put my stuff on it, you know I'm not there to hurt you. Then the communication starts, you see what I'm saying? But communication is the first. Jim, I'm gonna let you have it on that.
Yeah, that is a great question, Michael. I think part of the problem is, and I hear you, we don't want everybody going out into the land, but we do want everybody going out into the land. That's a conundrum. You cannot value the land unless you experience it and you personally give a value to it. I worked on land preservation projects in the past, and I ran a couple of trusts to acquire land and preserve it up in the Northwest. Some of it to give back to the Native American tribes there. One of the biggest things was education. So I started working from a model of action, prayer, education, and ceremony. You needed all four of those to be effective. Now, the number of people, and I say it at times, and I usually get attacked, there's too many of us. All the other animals know when to stop. We do not. We have thought for too long that we were special, that we were entitled as human beings. And so we have, well, to put it bluntly, we just keep creating like rabbits. And the planet cannot sustain that. There is a sustainable mass. It's actually somewhere around 3.5 billion people, science has said. So we have to start educating also to decrease the number of people over time, of course, so that we have something to hand on to the 7 generations. You know, many of us have all talked about and thought about and worked for the 7 generations for decades. We're not in that position anymore. Yes, we still have to focus on them. We have to worry about the next generation. That's how close it is now. And so I'm not quite sure how we do it, Michael. I'm not sure how we combine it. Weeks like this, I think, are critical. As I watch all the different people, kind of feel like I'm back in Standing Rock, sitting next to people who I didn't know, some of whose language I can't speak, and we're sharing like brothers and sisters. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and this is why I just put that question out there in this space to give people who are going to be watching this a thought to think about. because I know the people in this room are all in that good space of making people aware of these things through spoken word and action. And I want to thank you very much for holding this space. And nice to meet you, Charles. And thank you.
Well, Jim, if I may, brother, I wanted to give the people a little bit of knowledge about myself, real, okay? Jim knows me from way, way back because I started marching in the Martin Luther King movement also in around 1967. I was like, I've been an activist since I was 7 years old. I'm 62 springs old now. And I've been marching in the Martin Luther King movement from 67 till the time. And basically, this is what vision come to me. And I want to share the vision that I had. And within this vision, I went and had a cup of coffee after a prayer ceremony in the morning that I did. And I'm sitting there on my porch and I'm having a cup of coffee. And everything just went bright. And I looked up into the sky and now I could see this spirit. And he was smiling at me. And I was like, this is just blowing me away. And this spirit told me about unity and what unity of everybody, okay? And that flags would be coming to my house, to my place, be sent to. And we would use these flags of all people around the world. And everyone will start talking from all over the world with each other. And we will use these flags, okay? So Phyllis, let me see. We now hold 104 in my house right now. I think one come from the Philippines and one from Hong Kong, just like a few days ago. So that we have 104 flags now. But let me go further with this. And I thought, wait a minute. This is incredible. So about a month or so later, the Mahdi come to see me from New Zealand. And as that happened, she turned around and gave me the.
Hang on. People who are not speaking, please make sure your mics are off.
Well, anyway, to let you know further, I was like, how can I verify this, right? So this is the first time I've ever met with the Māori people from Aotearoa as far as New Zealand is concerned. And the meeting was over and they were fixing to leave. And the lady said, whoa, wait a minute. I forgot to give you this. And she went to the band and pulled out the Māori flag and handed it to me. So that verified my vision. So 104 flags later, and now look what we're doing right now. Okay. If that don't tell you the creator is working or grandfather is working, it tells me, okay, it tells me personally, all right? And what I have out here is 3 poles. And if you come to meet with me, wherever you're from, that flag goes up and flies with ours as far as unity is concerned and being able to speak with each other and sit with each other and eat with each other and talk with each other and family size, because we're related no matter where we're from and no matter what color we are, we're all related, mitakuasi. And you see what I'm saying? So within all that, uh, that comes to the point that the visions are true. Some can come true very highly. All right. So with all that, that is only a vision of mine. But look where we are right now. So Jim, I'll give it back to you. Or if anyone has any comment on it, on what I just said, go ahead. But
Thanks.
I give it back to you.
Thanks, brother. I went into another computer to try to, because we got hacked, but I think I got them off. That's good. Anyway, we're at time, but Charles, can you stay a little longer? Are you willing?
Yeah, I'm willing to stay as long as you wish,
So if people would like to stay a little
or as
longer,
long as I can. Yeah.
well, yeah. Yeah, not as long as you don't go there. There might be elders here and we'll be here 4 days, bro. So, yeah. Yeah, I see Michael laughing. I thought I just wanted to read what, here it is. Michael Kipp is here. He put this to everybody, so it's okay to read it, Michael. Much gratitude for this. I had a dream last night that happened to have someone who looked like Charles Twodog, and it was about the heart and the ancestors. That bit about the connection between our hearts and personal sacred sites was very meaningful in that context. Yeah, I agree. This is heart work, folks. This is not head work. This is all heart work. For those who have been brought up in the Western tradition, the industrialized tradition, we work in our head too much. You really have to start training yourself to go into your heart, because you'll hear most of this and understand most of this here. This is where, when we stand up together, this is what makes us so powerful. And this is what will help us win and create the new earth the way we want to create it. So, Michael, thanks for putting that in. That's another excellent point. Boy, this is a good group. Anybody else want?
I want to thank. I also want to thank that. Thank you very much for actually saying I look like anything. To me, I just look like me. But we'll
Right.
go with that.
He's really not Native American. He's actually Irish, Scottish, I think. You can tell. It's funny though. We were somebody mentioned
A wee little bit, huh? No, I'm
just
kidding.
a wee bit, yeah.
No.
The little people. Charles mentioned we've known each other a long time, and see, this is part of what's happening now too, and this you have to recognize in your heart. This week I've already seen some amazing things going on. Charles and I started doing a radio show, I guess, a couple years ago now, and before very long we realized, and I'm 70 and he's 60, so I call him young man. But he's my chief, so I have to show some respect. But we realized in talking, we knew each other as young people. I was a teenager, he was 8 or 9 years old. Turns out we were both marching with Dr. King when we were kids. So little did we know, all these decades later, our paths cross again, because it was the time that it was needed. It was the time for the two of us to go on the air. We've been off the air for a little while now. We're waiting for the right time to come back on. And then today, and we were asked to do the sacred sites part of this event, which I wanted to do. It was time to come on and talk more about these things. So a lot of this is recognizing, there you go, there's the heart over Michael, absolutely. Recognizing these things in your heart, not trying to find them, but letting them find you. Stay open, be open, let all these things appear. What's a sacred site? Whatever is sacred to you. I lived 5 years, 6 years in Sedona, Arizona. Lots of sacred sites. And I went to many of them all the time, and I brought people there. And the reality there was some of those sacred sites were changing. Some of those that were sacred in the beginning started to shift. Some that were female energy were turning masculine and vice versa. And that's all part of this too, part of this great puzzle. Energy moves around. Energy is not static. And so that doesn't mean that something that's sacred today stops being sacred, but something else may take some of that energy and fill part of the void. That's also when I was listening to the previous speaker talk about how we're losing so many sacred sites because they're being bulldozed. And that's true. That is true. We don't lose that energy. We don't lose that power. It moves, it shifts, it goes elsewhere. And we need to recognize that and be secure in that. So, okay, Carol, but you got to make it a shorter question. Got to watch when you ask an elder on, Charles.
I was going to say, you know, you got to be careful here. Uh, I wanted to touch base about that heart. So I want to invite all of you to come and listen to the presentation, Water Your Source, Not Your Resource. Because through Dreamtime, I was given a medicine wheel to heal the water. Well, actually, my question was how to heal the human to water connection that is very broken. And
Yeah.
the answer is love. We have to grow our heart bodies. You know, it used to be our heart body was bigger than our physical and spiritual bodies, and it's not anymore. And so there's a reason our ancestors used to always say, "Listen to your heart," and we need to come back to that realization and grow those heart bodies and share it out. I also want to just comment that I believe in getting people out on the land, but I start with the little ones because they're our future, and it's easier to teach them. They're already
Okay,
feel that connection. They
Carol,
have a
we're losing you again.
I'm done.
Oh, good. I'm sorry. We got to get that connection
It's
fixed
okay.
before you start your programs.
Yeah, my son is gonna put a booster in the house right by the on the window outside my yurt.
Good. Ooh.
I'm also gonna get a speaker.
Oh boy. Okay, let's see. What? I'm not sure. Oh. Do we have somebody else?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a couple shots at trying to hack us, but
That's
you know,
supposed that one's supposed to be in the waiting room. It hasn't been admitted, so it shouldn't actually be there. So I'm going to dump them.
what's that? Oh, okay.
I'm removing them because they are in the waiting room and they shouldn't even be in here.
Ah, okay. Good.
Jim,
So yeah.
if you allow me to go with what Carol was talking about too, okay? Uh, Number one within self, all right, is to remain humble. You know, in other words, you take me for instance. What I do for for the band, I'm a spokesman for the tribe. Okay, just that's it. But the point of it is, it's not about me. It's about the people. That's the main deal.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as heart is concerned, is that they always used to tell us, the old ones used to also say, listen to your heart, follow your heart, what your heart tells you. Okay. So every movement, every step I take is a constant prayer with the Creator. So every step at one-on-one relationship,
Mhm.
okay, with the Master of Life. All right. So my heart guides me as well. So there is a guide there called your heart. Work with that. Sacredness of self, sacredness with heart, sacredness with nature comes from the Creator. All right. So that one-on-one relationship also, but it's a way of heart. Life is a way of heart. That's what it should be.
Mm.
All right. So I wanted to share that with you.
Life is a way of heart. I like that. Well, good, because I was going to ask Louisa to come on, but I see her hands up.
Yeah, my hand is up virtually. Anyway, yeah, I've been wanting to pop in a couple of times, and really, all I've got to do is mirror exactly everything you've already been saying. For me, all land is sacred. It doesn't have to be a particular site. It doesn't matter where it is. One of the things that I'm trying to bring to sacred earth activism and teach is pilgrimage is a way of being and not as a walking from one place to another. It is about, as you just said, Charles, it is that being in your heart and in that connectedness with every single step you take, every breath you take, every thought you think, every word you speak. Everything is, isn't it? Um, I was once given uh, a definition of sacred, which suddenly took me out of my resistance to religion and anything, having been brought up in a Christian world and really not liking it very much. This whole idea of religion, I didn't like it at all, and sacred, I didn't get it, and I didn't get ritual. It's all they all had to go under that umbrella, and then that description of sacred as what it means is respectful, and therefore being full of respect. So a sacred place is a place that you fill with respect. It is a place that should be respected. It is a place that has respect. To be sacred is to be in a state of respectfulness. And so if we had that mindset all the time, which is what you're saying is your heart body, it is being in your heart, it is following your heart, and allowing heart to be your ruler, that is you being in a state of respectfulness. And it doesn't matter. I noticed Saranth is asked a question, and everybody is indigenous somewhere. Everybody has nativeness. Everybody belongs to the land. No land belongs to us. We belong to the land. We are a part of the land. There must be ways that we can help to show people that. And as Jim says, education is definitely one of those things. One of the ways I do it, when I go and walk out on the land, I'm learning to forage. So I'm learning to recognize the plants that I can use for medicine, the plants that I can use to eat. And so most of the time I'm very engaged with the land around me as I'm walking through it, and I am talking to the birds and the beetles and the bees and anything else that comes across me, and I'm looking at different plants, and people walk past me and they ask me what I'm doing. And like you said, Charles, it's communication. It's not be afraid to speak to people. I engage with them. I talk to them. I tell them what I'm doing. You have an interesting conversation. And of course, we are both affected by each other, are we not? So I've grown a little in that communication. They've grown a little in that communication. A little crack or chink of a door or a window is opened in their mind somewhere that hadn't been open before they stopped and engaged with me. So we can do big things, we can do little things. It doesn't matter. It just matters that we do. And it matters that in our hearts, we are respectful in every moment. Like you said, Charles, it is every moment. It is the way of being. And if we be it, then we are showing, we are a light that other people can follow. That's it. That's what I wanted to say, really.
Well, see, that's exactly, honey, what the main thing is. All right, is that heart. You have to, it's like I can go out and you go like, well, nothing's sacred in your front yard, right? Just say my place, right? But here's the point: I can go out in my front yard, sit down on the Earth Mother herself, and reflect, or give my prayers up, or smudge if someone is feeling bad, or send smoke up and give prayers for them while I sit in that one spot. So that one spot in my front yard for the time being is a sacred space, a spiritual place. Okay. So all that continues. All right. You take my wife for a second. You were talking about what, plants you could use for like food or anything of that matter. My wife will speak to the plant. She will pray to the plant before she ever does anything, right? And you got dandelions out here, and you got thistles out here. I got jam in my house, to put on the bread because she knows how to make this. All right. But she doesn't just pull it up or nothing like that. She prays to the plant. In other words, one Indian told us a long time ago, and I'm going way back, and he said, to be Indian is to hug a tree. And everybody went, what? Yeah, at one time. And you hug the tree and you sit underneath the tree to lament. You lament better. You see what I'm saying? We're related to that tree just as much as we're related to each other. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. No matter where you're at, if you sit on the Earth Mother just in your front yard and give prayers up, there's your sacred site in many, many ways. So, Jim, I give that back to you.
Yeah, no, it was. Thank you, Louisa. That was excellent. That's part of what I wanted to hear. I think, in part of what Charles just said, there's times I feel much more closely related to the standing people, the trees, and the animals than I do to two-leggeds, especially with the way we're acting out. And I feel good about that because I'm a tree hugger from way back. Somebody said totally. Okay, right. Yeah, that's the other. And Carol wrote here, and I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, pulling up the dandelions. They go to weed their yard. They don't want dandelions. Your wife goes and talks to him and prays with him, takes the dandelions, and you have jam. I go, pray to him and talk to him. I take the dandelions. I have medicine. So, yeah, I mean, all these things have multiple purposes. They're all here for a reason. Hmm.
I mean,
Boy,
you set it out here, Jim, and you look at these thistles that are growing, right? And they're thorny and they're no, cut them down. Now, I actually have jam and jelly in here from the thistle. My wife does that too. So we learn what we can do from that. The earth has sustained everything forever. All right. So it's still today, man. So what was yesterday is today, and it'll be tomorrow
mhm.
if we continue to learn these things and pass down that.
Yeah, no, good point. Here's, um, oh, forgive me because I'll probably really mess this up. Sarenth Odinson. Anyway, it went out to everybody, so you probably all saw it. I deeply appreciate being able to be here. As a heathen, your words on sacred places really hit me in the heart, in part because it has been part of my experience in part because I'm not native or indigenous. Our sacred places are those of the spirits. Places like our homes, local rivers, local creeks, small grove of trees where we pray, make offerings. Yeah, those are absolutely sacred places, Saranth. I was going back as my brother Charles was speaking. Actually, well, it doesn't matter. Somebody was speaking. I think Louisa. And remembering back a long time ago, I was about 20. So that's at least 10 years ago. Um, and my grandmother, as I sat with her, that's another story by itself. But one of the things she shared with me, and grandmom was a medicine woman in Italy and Switzerland before they came here. Romany Gypsy is that part of my heritage. And she said, "You pay attention when you go out there, grandson, because you know you're getting the power next. And you pay attention to these places. And you go with your father and you mark these places in your heart, not in your head, because there's a time later these places will be sacred to you. And you know what? Those places are sacred to me in a big way. She's long gone. My father's gone. My mother's gone. Those sacred places are there. I can connect with any of those people, any of those spirits, Saranth, because to me, those are sacred places. And so I don't think we're looking, I think we're looking at maybe different ways to say the same things. Sacred is sacred. And I don't care, I don't care what religion, I don't care what, like Louisa, I left traditional religion, well, before I hit 20. Just wasn't for me. I'm spiritual. But it doesn't matter what your walk is. Understanding the sacredness, understanding we have to come together, understanding all these things we have to protect now and understand and be teachers. Like Louisa said, part of what she said was, I hope everybody caught it. Carol, you're another great one for this. When you're teaching, at least for me, I learn and get back much, much more than I share with my students. I know it. And that always makes me feel humble. I know I've taught them something because they're thankful and, they'll give me tobacco or sage or whatever. But when I walk away, I go, wow, look at all this that I learned. And so part of this is right now, especially now, listen to the young people, listen to the elders. We've made lots of mistakes we can share, but listen to the young people. They've got a lot to say, and they're saying it in a good way.
Brother, if I may add to that, bro,
Yeah.
real quick, I wanted to relate to, there's three different things here. All right. And I'm going to go with you on this. All right. As far as everything is concerned, if you look at the elders, okay, the elders are our wisdom. They have been where we are going, or the young people are going. They've already been there. They've already done this. They're laying down the wisdom. Okay. Second of all, and most important, okay, in my culture, most important. So I wanted to relay this to all women. Second is the women, because you are the water giver, you are the life giver. Without you, there would be no nations. Without the female, there would be no nothing. Okay. So women are held in high regard. They are the life givers. I would not be here if it wasn't for my mother. Okay. I would not be here myself. So I always bow to the life giver, like I said at the first of this show. Now, the last part. The last part is the children. The children are the next generation. They are the ones that are going to continue this after us. So that relates to elders, women, and the children. Tribal thinking again, okay, really, but the children of the next generation, okay? And remember what I also said earlier, whether you're from Europe or native from America or Canada, Mexico, Great Turtle Island, or wherever you're from, remember I said we were all tribal people at one time, all right? Everybody was. You had the tribes of Europe that defeated the Roman Empire, all right? I'm just saying. So whether you talk about, okay, indigenous, all right? Say you live in the UK, you live in England, all right? Let's just say that. That's where you're from. Then you're indigenous from there. I'm not from there, but you're indigenous from there. So in a lot of aspects, we're all indigenous in certain aspects because uh, you just happen to be indigenous from Europe or from England, okay, or France or wherever you're from, okay. So it's that understanding that we're all tribal people. We just forgot how to be tribal within this time. We have forgotten. But I give that back to you real quick.
You know, you're absolutely right, and that's true. Some are closer to the land than others because they're not as far removed from their indigenous roots. And I think that is the difference. And it's those folks we need to hear because they're still living it daily. Um,
Uh-huh.
I think that's important. So listening to those people, listening to the young people, and throwing in a dose of sustainable science, we have a pretty good mix. We got a pretty good pot going that we can stir and see what comes out. I know finding out that the Kogi would be willing to come on Thursday and share what they're seeing now. To me, that's huge because they've been doing this right on the land for so many generations. They don't have any electricity for lights, so they have to come on during the daytime. So we can see them and they can see us. They're directly connected to their land. And there's other cultures still in that way. And I think the closer you are connected, the more you still remember because you're practicing. You don't have to remember, you're practicing it. You're right, Charles. The rest of us have to be opened up. Um, I've tried. I mean, I keep trying. I do that as a daily thing to reconnect to my roots, to reconnect to the earth. And I listen to these who are still living directly on the earth. And in that way, I think you can open up. Oh, and I see that Louisa asked, no, we don't have a time yet. I'm waiting to hear back from the Kogi. I will get it up on all the sites as soon as we know. And I'm not sure if we'll do it in this room or in the main room. We were told we can use that too, but that should be an interesting time. Whew. Well, we've gone an hour and a half. We probably should wrap this up. I need to take my dogs out once again, and then I'd like to eat a little bit because I definitely want to hear that talk tonight at 8 o'clock. So if are we good, Charles?
Yeah,
I'd
let
like
me
you to
close this out
good
if you
and a
if you
prayer if
don't
you want
mind.
to too. Yeah, good.
I'm gonna do it like this and then we'll go. Uh, get your money to walk on Tanka Tankashila. Buddha, God, all the names that people call you around the world, hear me. I send this, I am weak. I send this weak voice to you. Grandfather, we're thankful today. We give this gratefulness back to you because without you, we would not do this. Grandfather, we thank you that we are able to sit around this council and speak to each other and we make new friends today, friends that I have not met yet, and now I have. Grandfather, we're thankful for everything that we are allowed to say and to be here for the goodness, the humbleness, the love, the honor, the respect, and that we give this all back. Grandfather, we give this humbling honor to you, and I am here only to do your will, to do your bidding, and to give my share to all that I have in my heart. And my heart is what I give to everyone. Grandfather, we are thankful that you give this time. And I am thankful for that you allowed me to open my eyes this morning. And I'm thankful for the friends and the old friends and the new friends I have made today. And I thank you for the unity that you're giving us now. Aho Mitako Api.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, everybody who was in this circle. You're just a great sharing time. Stay with us this week. Check out the other things that are going on. Also, all the other groups. There's tons of wonderful groups this time. Special thanks to Charles, who shows up whenever I ask. Somehow we found up the days on this, and yet still he popped up and made himself available last minute. So thank you, brother. Now I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this. So I'm stopping live stream, and I guess I'm stopping the